Yeah, oh, I don't have the gavel. Make it official.
That's right.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome. We will start with a roll call. Patrice Scott is present. Howard Burnham.
Present.
Omer Ahern Jr.
Present.
Butch Cushing.
Present.
And Tom McLaughlin.
Present.
We'd like to thank Tom for joining as full board member again.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two sets of minutes before us, January 3rd, that apparently we had not officially adopted, so I would entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of January 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Howard, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, adopted. Now we have minutes of May 2nd. I've been able to look through them. I haven't seen anything, except I wanted to make sure that we added, that was unusual, but Frank Miller, our member of the public, did such a nice job of articulating reasons to support the application. We adopted his findings, so I want to make sure that those findings get attached to the minutes, and I don't see them on my copy anyway. Is that possible, Brian?
Right here.
Where-
Page,
The page before?
yeah, it's right there.
Okay,
Starts right
okay,
there.
sorry about that, they're there. I just didn't see them. Okay, well, that's good, so I just wanted to make sure we had those articulated for the record.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes of May 2nd.
Second
Okay,
it.
Howard and Butch, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those are
One
adopted.
abstention.
Okay, one abstention, Omer, because he did not sit for that, right?
Correct.
Okay, let me write that down. Omer abstained. Okay. So I would like to call the first public hearing. Well, actually, we have to announce the withdrawal of an application from Plymouth White Properties. One, case number 205009, was a request for special exception / variance. This case has been continued to a date certain from the April 4th meeting. Okay, so that was withdrawn. And now we have an application 214006, a special exception request from Article 3, Section 304 in the Table of Uses to allow the manufacture of goods sold on premises, including bakery, print shop, publishing, etc. That is a request by the owner, David Sanborn. And we would invite Mr. Sanborn to please let us know what his request entails.
I'm David Sanborn, resident, Holderness, New Hampshire, partner at the Chair and partner Sublime. We're looking to move the brewery from inside the restaurant over to the storage units, take up about 1,800 square feet, because we're kind of running out of room. It's a little tight in there, and we're busier than expected, sooner than expected, so it makes sense for us to go on over there.
Okay. So you basically want to move what you have in the restaurant area, brewery, you want to move that to where you have
The storage units now.
units.
Yeah, so it's basically half of the storage units that we have. It's going to be 4 of the units.
Okay, so
And-
will half still be storage units?
Okay, correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Until we go big time. But we do look to try and increase the volume of brewing, and luckily we're gaining speed.
Okay. All
Great, you
right.
gotta like bottle it and sell it there too, or what?
We're not going to bottle it yet, although Greg would like to. This is my partner, Greg Apriliano.
Greg Apriliano, a resident here in Plymouth,
and partners in Sublime Brewing. Yeah, we're at the point now where this first phase that we were in was really to test the market, see what Plymouth, see if there was a thirst for our product. And it turns out there is. And we've really hit a point where we're maximizing production. We're selling everything that we can sell, everything that we have, and we can't keep up with demand. So we have multiple restaurants in the community that have asked us to furnish them with our product, and we just can't right now. I have to say no to everybody. For a couple of reasons. One, we don't have room to do everything we need to do at the same time. Mm-hmm. The size room that we're in is great for one thing at a time, but once we get rolling, kegging, cleaning, multiple people in there, it gets pretty tight. We just physically can't do it, and so we're excited. We're excited to even be thinking about this. I really thought we'd be thinking about it 3 years from now, but it's been less than a year, and we're having a ball, and the public seems to love it. So we love making it.
And we're only really selling it at the chair, so it's selling out.
Right.
Yeah, we can't.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we have a couple of festivals in the state scheduled. We've been requested to join in some of these bigger festivals, and I'm having a hard time maintaining inventory so I can go to them and get the word out and bring even more tourists into the area. And we're already seeing that. We're part of the brewery tour of New Hampshire and the growler tour of New Hampshire, so we're on that map, and been getting requests from Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, about coming up and seeing the brewery. They want a tour. And it's, well, you can really stand in
and
one
it takes
spot.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
If
So
that.
it's exciting, and we're really excited to bring more tourism and business into Plymouth.
Well,
been
it's
fun.
great. It is remarkably successful very quickly.
It is. Thanks.
Great.
Good to hear that Plymouth has a big thirst for beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you never
Who knew?
think that, right?
Surprise, right?
I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Can you explain how the parking's gonna work?
I can. So the exciting part about the parking is I'm hoping to close on the 16th on an acre and a half right next door. So obviously that acre and a half is for parking because there's a vicious rumor out there that we need parking. So I was able to acquire that, which is super exciting.
And where the parking, how did that flow into your property?
So we're gonna use the same curb cut, and the people will be able to come up behind the restaurant. I don't know if you've been there, but you can come up in between the storage units and the restaurant, and you'll access right onto the other property, which I'm hoping we can.
And will they access the restaurant in the front?
They'll be able to, yeah, if you're looking at the restaurant, they'll either be able to come across the front patio and in through the French doors, or they can come around onto the farmer's porch and in. I mean, later on, I'd like to obviously add on to it, and they'd be able to access it from that side also.
Right. And is this the property that you had the planning board approve?
Madam Chair, I attached that, this was the planning board presentation, just to show the acreage.
Yes, we've more than doubled in size.
Right, so you have 1.1 acre and 1.5, so we have now 2.6 acres.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that's great. All right, does anybody else have any questions?
Have you gone to the planning board on the addition about the brewery?
What's that?
Does he have to go to the planning board about on the brewery?
Oh, he's on this agenda for the next meeting.
For the brewery addition?
Yes.
Right, for a site plan review.
Site plan review.
Yeah, yeah, but he's already been there for this.
Yeah, I understand that.
With a lot, yeah.
Yeah, the boundary line adjustment was taken care of at the last meeting.
Okay. All right, everybody set with questions? Would like me to, well, thank you, Mrs. Sanborn. Would you like to open the public hearing and ask anybody present if they have any comments in favor of the expansion? Hi, Frank.
I would like to speak in favor of this application for special exception. It meets the intent and purpose of our master plan for economic development. The request change is well within the bounds of the property itself, so there should not be any problems with butters. And I believe it maintains the character of the use and design of the property, and I believe it complies with the intent and purpose of a special exception, and I'd like to see approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Anybody else? All right, would anybody like to make comments opposed to the application? All right, seeing none, would anybody have any neutral comments? Any comment at all? No. All right. Oh, yes, okay.
This is by a non-alcoholic beer.
Good suggestion. I'll close the public hearing. All right, thank you. Would people like to discuss, or would we like to make fact findings? Could start by saying the request is in the ag zone.
Okay.
All right, on 2.6 acres now,
And it's an existing business.
existing business.
Nobody spoke against the project.
Okay, nobody against. Existing business that is very popular,
There you go.
which is, I appreciate that you were able to acquire land for the parking, because I know that was
Yeah,
a big
and that's, I
concern.
think you ought to put that it's, provisions being made for expansion of the parking too.
Right, provisions made to expand parking in the interests of safety. Okay,
The size of the brewery is going to be about 1,800 square feet.
1,800 square feet proposed brewery. All right, let's see, where's the,
No additional town services are needed.
okay. No additional town services.
Using the same curb cut.
So same curb cut. Okay, I think that looks good. All right, would we like to go through our criteria for a special exception? Number one, and Tom, we'll start with you, okay? The proposed use shall be only those allowed in this ordinance by special exception.
It's true.
I'll say true.
True?
True.
True.
Okay. The specific site is an appropriate location and adequate size for the use.
That's true, as proved by the expansion of it. True.
I believe that's true.
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 Okay. The use as developed will not adversely affect the character of the area in which the proposed use will be located.
I think that's true. There's, it has a pretty big radius. The nearest house is quite a ways away, and I don't know how far back the school is from that, but doesn't seem to be any complaints about it.
I'd say true.
I believe that's true because it's located in a building that's existing right now. It will be relocated there.
True.
True.
All right. Number 4, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
True.
I'll say true.
I say true. In fact, it's improved parking, which I think will improve the safety of that driveway area.
True.
True.
Okay. Number 5, the use will not place excessive or undue burden on town services and facilities.
True. It is existing.
True.
I believe that's true.
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 Okay. There would be no significant effect resulting from such use upon the public health, safety, and general welfare of the neighborhood in which the use would be located.
True.
True.
I believe that's true.
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 Okay. Well, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the special exception as presented.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Okay. Well, congratulations. You've got a special exception. All right, thank you, and continued luck.
Thank you very much.
Success. Yeah. All right, now, let's get to the right page here. Those aren't working. Here we go. Okay. I'd like to call application 213-005-003, a variance request for relief from Article 3, Section 304, our table of uses, to allow a 30-dwelling unit building on a 12-acre parcel. The request is from Brian Young through his agent Jeff Lewis.
Ready?
Okay, hi there. So are you Mr. Lewis?
I'm Mr. Lewis, Jeffrey
Great.
Lewis from North Point Engineering in Concord, New Hampshire. With me tonight is Peter Kelleher, who's the president and CEO of Harbor Homes, who's actually the applicant, and Peter Bennett from Wynett and Bennett law firm. Both of these gentlemen are from Nashua. I thought that I would give you folks a kind of an overview of the history. I'm sure everyone is aware of what's been happening over the last couple of years, but I just wanted to walk everyone through it. Take a couple minutes to do that. Then I'd really like to turn it over to Peter Kelleher to give you folks a overview of Harbor Homes and his organization and what they do throughout New Hampshire. And then if you have any questions for him, that'd be great. And then ask him to turn it back over to me, and I can walk you through the criteria of the variance if you so choose. So this project started a couple years ago, just over 2 years ago, and has been known as Soldier On up to this point. And as you're all well aware, I'm sure, this is the parcel at the end of Boulder Point Drive, just uphill from the Walmart, up at the end of the road, across the street from the medical office buildings. And this plan I just threw up here, which you don't have in your packet, is the Soldier On latest plan that was before you folks last year and then approved by the planning board. There was a prior version of this plan 2 years ago that Soldier On had worked on, and this effort really started with the local group here led by Kathy Bentwood and her folks from the Bridge House and Alex Ray and their group to really try to get an organization up into Plymouth to tackle and help address this the issue of the homeless veterans and provide some permanent housing opportunities up in this area. And it turned into working with Brian Young on this property and identifying this as a suitable location, and then reaching out and they were in contact with Soldier On, which was an organization out of Massachusetts, who specialize in, amongst other things, providing permanent housing to the veteran community. So we worked with them, we worked with the local group, we worked with the community here in Plymouth and the zoning board and the planning board, and I think, it was really great, a lot of support here for this project. And we got everything we needed from you folks and from the town to move forward with what they had. It started out as a 52-unit project. It ended up as a 54-unit project. So we're in good shape. The Soldier On project did need funding. They had multiple levels of funding that they were seeking. They were successful last year in obtaining part of that from the VA, which they needed, which is a critical component of what they needed. But they also needed some funding from HUD through the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, which we're hopeful to get last fall. And if that had happened, this project would be well underway right now, probably. That's a very competitive process that they were in, and there's a lot of other great projects around the state, and they did not get that funding last fall. So after 2 years of trying to get that, Soldier On kind of hit a wall with their efforts. So that project really died last fall, which was unfortunate for all the hard work that everyone put into that. But through Kathy's group and her efforts and continuing to work with the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, there was an effort to reach out to Harbor Homes and Peter and his group, who are from Nashua and have done a great job down in the greater Nashua area and have earned quite a bit of recognition down there for their work, as well as other areas around the state. We worked with them on a project, a veterans housing project in Manchester a few years ago, and I know they've done work not only for veterans, but that is one of the programs that they provide. And I'm going to let Peter talk about that. But they came in this winter really kind of at the last second here to try to save some of the funding and the VA funds that Soldier On had secured to make use of those. So they're ready to move forward with this. They're kind of coming in at a point where they can save the project, but have a very quick timeline to move forward with it, which would require us to get into construction later this summer and try to get this thing built by next year at this time, in May, I think. So we're hoping we can go through the process. We are here for a variance because of the use and their program that they're proposing is a little different than what Soldier On was proposing. So I want to describe that to you, but I think maybe I'll stop and let Peter come up and give you an overview of his program first, and then I can take back over, if that makes sense. That work, Peter?
Thanks, Jeff. Good evening. I'm Peter Kelleher, President and CEO of Harbor Homes. Been there for about the last 35 years and working on veteran homelessness in New Hampshire for about the last 15 years. We work with veterans in our agency. We serve about 750 veterans across the state each year. We have 4 different housing projects that we have built or rehabbed that serve honorably discharged homeless veterans. 2 are in the greater Nashua area, or in Nashua. 1 is in Manchester, 1 in Claremont. And we work with veterans in other types of facilities and provide supportive services to veterans and their families. And veterans have been a major passion of ours. For the past 15 years, we've been working on solutions to end veteran homelessness in New Hampshire. Recently, in the greater Nashua area, we've been certified as having effectively ended veteran homelessness in the greater Nashua area. And this is something that we have a quest to try to do on a statewide basis in the future. So in New Hampshire, there are veterans who are homeless, who have suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and have had other traumas and crises in their life that have led them to homelessness. Most of the services that are available for veterans are transitional housing. They are served in an emergency shelter or in a 2-year transitional program. There's a huge shortage of permanent housing and pretty much an absence of permanent housing in this part of the state. We study veteran homelessness very carefully. We track who among homeless shelters in New Hampshire were veterans almost every week. And the very significant portion of those that have been homeless veterans have actually been in this part of the state. So we would like to do our best to see if we could fill in and provide that resource. We've been operating veteran programs in residential for almost a dozen years and in actual residences, and we've had great success. We've had many veterans, hundreds, who have moved on to permanent, successful housing opportunities, and we know that veterans really appreciate having a full kitchen, and that's one of the things that caused us to change the proposal. And that is different from what Soldier On has done. We also have case management staff that would be based on site, and we would work closely with the White River Junction VA, which is responsible for this portion of New Hampshire, who would also provide a case manager who would be on location. So we work closely with the Housing Finance Authority and the Veterans Administration, and we believe that we are able to pull together all the necessary resources to complete the project if we can obtain all the local approvals. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I'll turn it over to Jeff, who might go forward.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
How many units did it take to alleviate Nashua's problem?
We have a total of about 90 units in Nashua, and we have empty units.
It's different projects or all
Yes,
of them different projects?
We have one project that's 25, another one that's 40, another one that's 5, and then we have 21 scattered apartments.
Thank you.
When you say on-site services, does that mean that your clinicians will have space on site to work with the tenants?
Yes, there would be office space there where housing case management and other kinds of case management services could be available to ensure the veterans would be successful in living there.
Are we including any kind of medical services, or?
No. It is, we do provide some medical services. In fact, the VA is co-located in our Nashua facility with us, but we would certainly facilitate access to any existing medical services that are up here, and we're mindful that there's a nearby clinic in the area.
You said that you rented to honorably discharged veterans. Is there any other screening process you have?
Is there a screening process?
Is there any other screening process? What's part of the screening process?
Well, we get referrals typically from the VA, and we have to ensure that everybody is qualified for income purposes. And, we also do record checks, criminal record checks on everybody that comes into our facilities.
Yes, Homer?
Very good, very, very good. Are you going to have any vegetable gardening areas for the folks there?
We would love to, yes.
You will, okay.
I'd make that a
I'll ask the
condition.
next question.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about asking the next question, but I won't.
In all of our other facilities, we have similar kinds of amenities, and the veterans love it.
I guess my follow-up question was to the gardening. You have 12 acres there. Very little of it looks occupied by the building. What are you gonna do with the rest of that land there?
Well, I think that's not firmly clear at this point. Maybe you'll speak to that.
And I just wonder, you're gonna clear it, to be used for the veterans and stuff like that?
Well, I know we have parking that's planned.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna I forgot to hand this out, so I'm gonna do this also. This wasn't included in part of your packet, and I'll
Okay.
then answer your question. This is just the current status of the building design.
Thank you.
And everything is really still kind of in what I call the design development stage. We're trying to get enough detail to submit to the planning board this month so that we can be at a public hearing in July and really be ready to start construction by the end of August. So we're adding this plan that you have that we submitted for the zoning application is the base plan for where the building is going to go. This is slightly different shape than what you have in there, although it's probably not discernible. But it is a 2-story, 30-unit building. We are proposing this layout for parking. They'd like to do some covered parking spaces on either side for the units. So we're trying to get this final design done and in a construction cost for the building and the site that works, that is feasible. So we're still working on that. So if we can do the covered parking, we're gonna do that. That's shown on the plan right now. I think it's gonna be an alternate ultimately when they go to construction. But we've talked about a garden area, a greenhouse in the back. There's gonna be some type of memorial area with a flagpole in the front that was similar to what's Soldier On is proposing. So we'll have some other amenities. There'll be a patio. in the back of the building. You can see on that floor plan, there's kind of a community room here with doors at the back, so they'll have a patio there. So those are the kind of the hardscape details that we're working on right now, really, that we'll be presenting when we get to the planning board. So there will be additional features. In large part, though, it's a big 12-acre site. It's kind of wide open right now because it's been used as a construction yard, and so it'll all have to be stabilized and reclaimed, and grass. There'll be a little small detention area back here. So it'll be pretty open, and probably a lot of lawn area out there, really. Do you have other questions for Peter? You want me to? Yeah.
Anybody? Omar?
I noticed that you've got, it looks like at least 4 two-bedroom units,
Yes.
and are they all going to be limited to one, the one-bedroom units, are they going to be limited to one person, or would there be, like, if a veteran were married, would they be able to?
Yes, so there's 25 one-bedroom units and 5 two-bedroom units is what we have on the plan. And if a veteran was part of a household that they were married, they could absolutely have a spouse live with them.
Either in the single unit or the
Yes.
doubles, yeah. Okay.
And if the double unit, if they had children, would the children be able to go into that double unit?
It's conceivable, but it's, we have other units that are larger for veterans with families if they wanted to move to that area too, but for the most part, it's been two-parent, a couple, and we have had some with children, yes.
That's an interesting question. So, I mean, you've got these discrimination laws that you come under for rentals. And so you get to say, just like an elderly at plus 55, is that, so you're saying, we want to put these mostly with single men in their rooms. And if they come to you with a wife and a child, and they say, we're glad to get that one room, and God knows they are. I mean, is that anything, what would stop that from you turning out with, a majority of these wind up with children in them and women, and you've got all these people living in a one-bedroom apartment?
I think theoretically it's possible, but knowing the population that we have, the overwhelming majority, probably 85% of the units that we have are all single person.
So
Right.
I can believe that. Is that how it goes in your other units?
Yes.
That really doesn't bubble up to be a problem of
Right, and
everybody
if there
starting
were, we have 2 other buildings that are available to accommodate a
families.
veteran household with children.
Thank you.
When you're talking about the veterans that would rent here, are we talking about all ages? Like, are we talking about 50-year-old people, 50-year-old
Really,
people?
we're talking about veterans that are,
Vietnam-era veterans?
yeah, we're talking about, there are some, post 9/11 veterans that are served, for sure. But the majority are veterans that are Vietnam-era veterans.
So, Mr. Kelleher, do you see this as like a network of veterans homes that you have established? And with the New Hampshire Housing Authority involved, isn't there like an application process? So
There is.
and criteria eligibility that they could help determine whether somebody was appropriate for
Absolutely.
this housing
Yep,
or
it's
that
very
housing?
highly regulated by the Housing
Yeah, it's very
Finance Authority, and they oversee and they do annual inspections, and we have reports that we have to provide to them. So it's, there's a lot to it.
And could I just ask the other configurations of your homes in Nashua? And,
Sure.
Are they similar to being a large one facility, or are they broken up into smaller?
Well, in
Buildings?
Manchester, we have 26 separate apartments, a pretty large facility. In Nashua, we have one 20-unit building, and we have one 40-unit building.
Okay, so they are all like one unit I mean, one building with all those units in it, not,
Right,
okay.
that's correct.
Okay, like not different, very different from the configuration of the Soldier-On that we were presented.
Right.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. Omer?
One of the things that's really great about this location is you've got medical facilities, as you said, and, you know, there's food shopping and pharmacy, and that's the whole nice thing about that particular location. One of the things that I had been concerned about in the previous presentation was parking. So is there going to be at least one parking space for each one of these units, and maybe a couple of more, or?
Yeah, we are in support of the idea of adequate parking for everybody, and, you know, we want to be able to attract veterans to feel like this can be a comfortable home, and you mentioned, you know, a sense of community that can develop for veterans that would live there, and that's all part of the same thing. You know, we want this to be something that the community can be proud of, we can be proud of it, and veterans will seek it as a destination.
Let's hope this one works this time.
I have a question, does this project pay property taxes?
I believe there was an agreement with Soldier-On about property taxes, and our understanding is that we would have to either renegotiate that or provide some similar arrangement to what they did.
Yes, Tom?
So it looks like you're really getting some economies of scale to get these all under a roof and similar units going right through. Is this a steel frame or is it a stick-built building?
I think it's gonna be stick-built, but that's what, I'm pretty sure.
That's what you're gonna try to get stick-built?
I believe so.
So, I mean, is your cost reasonable enough that you are just borrowing money, or is this a subsidized going on with like Farmers Home, or is it like subsidized to their income, or?
Well, the housing, the income comes from the Veterans Administration. This is called Project-Based VASH. It stands for Veterans Administration Supported Housing, and the income is attached permanently to the property. As far as the development side, we'll be getting funds from the Housing Finance Authority. There'll be some state of New Hampshire tax credits that we're expecting shortly. And there'll be some private funds that will be also, some that we've already obtained as pledges if the project goes forward, and others that we'll raise as well.
So their rent will be all figured by the Veterans Association, and they'll deal with that, and you don't have to be calculating.
Right.
Great, thanks.
Okay, anyone else?
How often does these places turn over?
Well, in Nashua, a lot of the projects that we have are transitional housing, so veterans can stay there for 2 years. And generally, they want to stay longer. In this scenario, we're expecting people will stay 3-4 years. This is long-term housing.
Mhm. Okay, anybody have any other questions? All right, well, thank you, Mr. Keller.
you.
I'll be right here if you have any more. So I was just gonna,
You're going to present on the variance
yeah,
versus...
I'm gonna flip back real quick to this one and tell you, point out the differences and why we're here for a variance. Soldier-On, because of the nature of what they're proposing, smaller units with kitchenettes and the nature of the development was identified as a residential institution use in the zoning ordinance, which is a permitted use in the ICD zone. So we do not need a variance. We were before you folks for a special exception because they were proposing 4 buildings on the lot, and that was a special exception that was granted 2 years in a row for the multiple buildings on a lot. Because the Harbor Homes program has the larger units and the full kitchens, it doesn't qualify anymore for the residential institution definition. So we're more into a traditional multifamily apartment style definition, which the zoning ordinance, it does allow in the ICD by special exception a multi-unit building up to 6 units, but the zoning ordinance has no provisions anywhere in town for a multi-unit building that's over 6 units. So we have a situation here where very similar proposal to Soldier On for all practical purposes, but it's a multifamily that exceeds 6 units. It's a 30-unit building. It's not defined in the ordinance, so that's why we're here for a variance. So we've gone through and articulated our, what we believe to be thorough arguments for granting the variance and the 5 criteria. I'll try to just go through them, I guess just quickly, but I think the crux of it is really, what I just said. There is no provision made in the ordinance for a multi-family building over 6 units, which we believe is kind of the crux of our hardship in this case. If we had proposed multiple 6-unit buildings, and if it was, affordable from a construction standpoint and from a program standpoint for us to split this 6-unit building up into 5 separate buildings, we wouldn't need a variance. We'd be here for a special exception for multiple buildings on a lot. If you look at the density requirements in the ICD and for multifamily buildings, this site can sustain over 50 units, I think 54 units. So we could have 54 units of multifamily on this site if we split them all up into 6 units or less per building. So it's really the fact that we're combining these into one building, which we need to do to make this project work. So that particular aspect of the ordinance does create a hardship, for us or for this project on this property. We also feel that the property is unique up here. I mean, unlike some other areas of town where you may not want a big, huge multifamily building because it's adjacent to residential areas or some other places. This is in a commercial and institutional use area. We have Walmart, we have Tractor Supply, we have the medical office building. I mean, this big 30-unit building is the smallest building there, except for the little dental building right here. But even that, it's on a similar scale to this. So this neighborhood is the special circumstance, I think. We have water, we have sewer available here, and providing this multifamily use for this purpose, I think, is compatible in this neighborhood. So there are special criteria that this parcel has that other parcels in town may not have, that I think contribute to the variance. So that's kind of the crux of it. I'll just walk through. We feel that granting of the variance will not diminish the value of surrounding properties. Clearly, this is, as was pointed out, there's a lot of open space left on this property. It's going to be well screened from the adjacent uses, which is more critical for this project than the adjacent uses. So there's no reason to think that the adjacent uses are going to be adversely affected. This is a low traffic generator. It'll be probably the lowest one on the road, so it shouldn't have any value, any effect on the value of surrounding properties. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest. Well, this project is coming here because of the public interest. I mean, there's clearly a need for this, and I think everyone will be happy if it moves forward. So we feel like in no way will the project be contrary to the public interest. Variance, the hardship, that's pretty much what I had just talked about. We have special circumstances here at the end of this dead-end road and the nature of the neighborhood. We have a 30 dwelling unit building on 12 acres, which meets density requirements of the zone. And there is no, we don't feel that there's a practical relationship between the zoning restriction imposed on this property and this proposed use. So short of reading my 4 paragraphs, I'll just leave it at that. Granting of the variance would do substantial justice. Again, this is to meet a need here. This is after 2 failed attempts, this is what it looks like it's going to take to get this project done, is to have one 30-unit building. So I think there will be substantial justice if this variance is granted. The use will not be contrary to the spirit of the ordinance. One of the spirit of the ordinance is that to promote the general welfare of the community. That is a specific purpose, and this clearly is going to, help the veteran community and do exactly that. So I think that in no way is this contrary to the spirit of the ordinance. I can elaborate on any of those if you want. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I can't think of anything else to add. Like I said, we're getting ready to go to the planning board. We'll have a much more detailed plan to show to them, and we'll take into consideration certainly everything that's mentioned here. Parking, absolutely there's going to be enough parking on this project. We're meeting the code. We're not asking for any relief. There will be, I think we need 1.5 spaces per unit, and we're planning to have that. So there'll be 15 extra parking spaces on site.
Mr. Lewis, I have one question for you. Say down the road when we have the apartments all filled by veterans, what if there's, in the future, there's not enough veterans to fill in it? Are there any restrictions on the building with the housing
I believe that there
authority
are.
that it has to be veterans?
So 25 of the units have to be for veterans,
Right, that's,
and 5 are veteran preference.
okay. Thank
So
you.
we do
Yeah,
have
that
a
answers
little
it.
bit of optionality in case
Right.
those things occur.
Right, that's what I'm just wondering if there's any leeway, if the, we don't have enough veterans to go in there, what happens?
And we are,
Go ahead.
we are able to go back to the Veterans Administration should we reach a point where we just cannot find another veteran, and seek some relief that way too. But we're probably a ways away before that could happen.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else have any questions?
Tom does over here.
Tom?
For the engineer, for the services, is the water system able to pump up that high to sprinkle you guys up there?
Yes, it's,
Really?
we're close to the limits of it, but we
I
did
bet you
flow.
are. So, but you don't have to put in another tank or anything like they did at
It doesn't
Tenny?
appear to. We did a flow test last fall in anticipation of Soldier On moving forward, and it seemed that everything was.
Oh,
was
that's
but
great.
It's close to the limit, yeah.
Great.
Although I know they're not cheap anyhow, but.
Okay, well, we have all our questions answered. Why don't we open the public hearing and ask if there's anybody present that would like to speak in favor of the application?
Miller again. I would like to speak in favor of this application. I don't believe I can expand any better than the person who presented their facts and findings. And I believe it's the effort of the people in the area that would like to see this happen.
Great. All right, thanks, Frank. Anyone else? Kathy? Yep.
We've been working on this for 6 years. And we've bounced from Plymouth to Ashland to Holderness, and now we're back where we should have stayed in the very beginning. And last week, one of our vets, with one of these vouchers that Peter was talking about, a VASH, and he was with us for about a year, and he left 2 years ago. He comes in regularly saying, is that place built yet? When can I move in there?
So there's a need out there.
Oh my God, there's definitely a need, absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, would
Can I
anybody?
ask a question of
Sure.
Mr. Bentwood? How many veterans do you have in the Bridge House at this point, if you can share that information? I don't know if you can.
Well, I think today there are 3, there were 4 last week. And I think the count for vets at the Bridge House over the last 3 to 4 years is something like 89. Okay?
And are you anticipating that your clients, if you use that word, at the Bridge House
Participants?
participants would be going to this new facility when it is up and running?
This coming year, yes, they will be. And I am anticipating. I mean, I wrote to Peter last week and said, when can we start a waiting list so that I can tell guys like Bill, who came in last week, yep, you're on the list. So anyway, I'm hoping that we can establish that fairly soon.
I mean, because at the county delegation budget meeting on Monday, we were talking about more homelessness. I mean, they want to do something in Lebanon. And so it's not really getting any better. I mean, you're doing great work over here, Mrs. Bentwood and your folks, and, I mean, again, we've been waiting a long time for this to come to fruition, so, and so I got a feeling as soon as you open up beds for your you're gonna have more people knocking on your door.
That's a good thing. It's a great problem to be able to help solve.
Let's end homelessness.
That's right. Just does it.
Right. Okay, is there anybody else who'd like to comment? I will close the public meeting. All right, I ask the board to, is there anything you'd like to discuss? Or you can start fact-finding? Okay, the only thing I would like to bring up is my problem is I always read the zoning ordinance. And there's something on page 1314 of our zoning ordinance that says, if a specific use is not listed in the table of uses, then it is not allowed unless the planning board finds the use sufficiently similar to an enumerated, permitted, or special exception use. So I just wanted to ask the board what they felt about that, and I'm certainly, I think this is a great project, and the way the last one developed was with a different configuration, but the fact that there isn't anything in our zoning ordinance that says
Can you read that again?
yeah, that we could have a,
What section is that under, Madam Chair?
it's under Article 3, Zones, Maps, and Regulations. It's page 13, and it says, if,
What section? There's
oh,
4 sections under.
Section 304, sorry.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, it's in that paragraph.
Okay.
And it says, if a specific use is not listed, then it is not allowed unless the planning board finds the use sufficiently similar to an enumerated, permitted, or special exception use. So it was talking about, the variances or special exceptions, and saying that if something's not listed on our table of uses, it's not allowed unless the planning board tells us it's okay. So
No,
that's
unless they say that I thought that meant that the planning board could interpret it as a similar use, like he wants to
Right,
put his
exactly.
brewery in, and they could kind of draw it over to the cover of a similar use. But as far as in the description of the zoning board, I mean, it's funny when he made the statement that he didn't see any provision for
Right.
building over 12 units. I felt like saying, well, here it is, that's what we do. We've approved the, what do you call it, Hanaway's other big building, the elderly project, and we approved 13 units up at Blueberry Hill. And so, I mean, I think that every building that has been not in the criteria,
Right, well, I just wanted to bring this up, because that's what
Sure,
I
okay.
wanted to, I just wondered if, once again, like our last thing we were getting, whether, it's the chicken or the egg, do they go there first?
I think I can
Right.
answer your question.
Okay,
What is the use? Residential. Mm-hmm. And then you're just talking about numbers. So the use is
right, allowed
is allowed in there.
in the ICD.
It's qualifying numbers of those uses that the zoning speaks to. And I would hazard a guess that said that when this particular part of the zoning was written, nobody ever believed there would be more than a 6-unit building in the town.
Right,
But the use is residential, which is an approved and permitted use in the ordinance. So essentially what they're doing is talking about numbers in the building, not,
yeah. But all I'm concerned is that I don't want to be stepping on the planning board's toes. What I'm saying is I'm wondering if we could, I just want to make sure it's okay with the planning board that if we approve a 30-unit building, that,
if it's an administrative decision that needs to be made, certainly I could do that in lieu of it, and Mr. Lewis will be appearing before the
Right.
planning board at the next
and
meeting.
I know the site
for-
plan hasn't.
For non-binding, it's not, he's just going to
It's the
present.
preliminary, right?
Yes.
Okay, and see, that's
And
what
that can
I
be
think.
addressed at that meeting if you would like.
Right. That's why I was bringing it up. What I felt, and with a couple of times, when it's something new like that, it's really my prerogative, or I believe it's the planning board's prerogative. We're just sitting here interpreting and applying the zoning ordinance.
Correct, but you have
any-
to apply it to the right metrics, and though the 30-unit use isn't expressed in the ordinance, certainly residential is.
Right, residential is, but under uses, it says, it specifies multiple unit dwelling of 3 to 6 units, and that's the biggest thing we have.
Yes, but if you would look on the next page, where it delineates all the uses allowed in the town of Plymouth,
Right,
you will
Well,
find
that's-
that that's, I believe, where that
Right.
paragraph is speaking to.
no, the
So
other
when I
one,
want to open my gunpowder factory in downtown, I would have to go to the planning board for that.
right,
However, it's a residential use, so just by the terms that the ordinance is written in, you have to go with that. What's the use? Residential. It's in there. So then you're talking about numbers.
right. Okay, well, I wanted to bring this up just to the attention of, everybody, so we could at least discuss it. My feeling is just whether we could ask the planning board, whatever, to consider that. And I don't want to step on their toes if that's their decision.
Well, why don't we just
Make our
You know,
findings.
make a point and say,
We can make it
the
a condition of
conditions are
approval.
subject to planning board approval.
Right,
There you have it.
right.
That's it anyhow.
That's all. I just want to show deference to the planning board because of this line in our ordinance, and if that's okay.
Following up on that, Madam Chairman, due to the size of the property, the 12 acres, the uniqueness of the property, where it's located, and again, looking at that section on page 14, I think the engineer did the math for us. We're not putting any unreasonable burden on that particular lot, and I think it's a good idea to, make it subject to,
Right, planning board approval.
planning board approval, but I just think this is,
Okay, well, why don't we,
Good idea.
as part of our findings, Omer, why don't you find that, the equation that showed that the 30-unit multiple-family use, what they're proposing is actually less than if we use the current metrics. I think that would be a good finding.
that's what I would say, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much.
All right, so,
Thanks for saying that, Homer.
yes, thank you, Omer. So why don't we do that? Brian, do you know where I'm talking about? It's on page 1 of the application that we can cite as a finding, that the proposed 30-unit multifamily use, let's see, the minimum lot size for a 6-unit building is 53,560 square feet. And 5 buildings using that times the 53,560 square feet equals 267,800 square feet. That whole
We went on to
section,
say that you could put 9 6-unit apartments in.
right,
units.
that the proposal is less.
Credit where credit is due. I did the math on that one.
Right, I thought you did the math. So why don't you put that in as the finding, okay, that it's, what's being proposed is actually less than what the, another configuration would actually allow. I think that would be a good finding to have. And then we want to put 12 acres. All right, what else do we want to put? This is
It's a commercial area.
commercial area, very well-established need.
Similar proposal was approved by this board previously.
Okay, right, similar proposal previously approved. So, and well-established need for this kind of housing.
Utilities are there.
Yep. Utilities are all present.
Size of the building will fit in the,
Ample size of,
actually, it'll be the
property.
smallest, one of the smaller buildings
Okay, so building
in the neighborhood.
size is not an issue. How do we want to put that positive?
Is
Building size
comparably,
is suitable for
Neighborhood.
neighboring properties. Okay. And anything else we can think of? I think that's good. All right, why don't we go through our criteria? special exceptions.
No variance, right?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong page, variance. Variance. Here we go. Okay, number 1, granting the variance will not diminish the value of surrounding properties.
True.
That's true?
True.
True.
Okay, number 2, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest.
True.
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 Most definitely true.
Okay. Denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship to the applicant upon proof that, A, the zoning restriction as applied to the applicant's property interferes with the applicant's reasonable use of the property, considering the unique setting of the property and the environment.
True.
I have to say false on that one.
True.
True.
Okay. And, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purposes of the zoning ordinance and the specific restriction on the property.
True.
True.
I have to say false on that.
True.
True.
Okay. C, the variance would not injure the public or private rights of others.
True.
True?
True.
True.
Okay. 4, granting the variance would do substantial justice.
True.
True?
True.
True.
Okay. 5, the use will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance.
True.
I believe that's true.
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 Okay. So I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the variance as presented.
Okay.
I'll second that
By
motion,
Howard
Madam
and
Chairman.
Homer. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that's,
We don't want to see you again.
Or something else?
On this project. Something else.
congratulations and thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Keller.
Sorry to make the council drive all the way up from Nashua.
I'm happy to sit here. Or prefer to hear from engineers rather than lawyers.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. That's
He
great.
did start moving around with Patrice pulled out that part,
I know.
paragraph, though.
That line. I just have to.
Any other business? We have to
Sorry.
close the
Yep,
meeting
yep,
here.
Yep, we have to close the meeting. So let me get back to here. Let's see. Unfinished business? Anybody? Do we have, Brian, do we have any unfinished business?
I believe we've covered it all, Madam Chair. There hasn't been a whole lot coming in
Right,
as far as, training or anything like that.
right. Do we have any new business?
None.
No communications?
Taking care of it already.
All right, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming.